Well, if you see one of the typical contracts of these workers of Qatar Airways, particularly the female workers, they have very clear obligations in terms of pregnancy and marriage. They are obliged to seek for permission from the management if they want to change the marriage status or if they want to be pregnant. There is a lot of pressure on particularly the female workers, but not only with them, because they are continuously under surveillance. They are continually monitored. They have their own apartments, and the company knows whenever they come in and they go out, because they have curfews where visitors are forbidden, particularly if they are from a different sex. And this makes living in these conditions very hard, because the workers there know that they don't have a private life, and this is very stressful for them. The only way of avoiding the abuses that we've been witnessing in these states, particularly in Qatar, is the workers defending themselves with their organizations. This is what we see in most of the airlines that compete with Qatar Airways. The workers have their own unions, have their own organizations, they negotiate freely with the employer. This makes possible an environment of goodwill and productive interaction of the workers and the management, but this is what we cannot see in Qatar Airways, because all these migrant workers, the thousands of migrant workers making this airline very productive, don't have a voice. They are forbidden by law to build their own organizations, so they cannot have a balanced relationship with the management. That's why we see all the abuse that we've been hearing from the workers in the last years. Together with the ILO and the ITUC, the ITF will continue putting pressure on the government of Qatar, because we think that it's high time for them to accept that they need to provide rights to the migrant workers. There is a big difference between the level of rights between the Qataris and the migrant workers, and particularly in the airline, where almost all of the workers are migrant workers. This makes a very significant imbalance, and this is very unfair for these workers. So we will continue putting pressure to the government, because we think that these workers deserve to have their own organization, they deserve to fight for their own rights, and we are going to help them to achieve that. Since the ITF aired this abuse from Qatar Airways to these thousands of migrant workers in Qatar, we've received several messages and phone calls from workers that are still active and others who have been retired from the airline. First of all, thanking us for somehow being their voice, the voice that they cannot have because they don't have an organization, they don't have a union. And secondly, they say, yeah, this is what is happening to us, but not only this. There's a long list of abuse, particularly because of the attitude of Mr. Al-Bakr, the CEO of the airline, that it's almost dictatorial in the way that he manages the staff of the airline, and he's even very proud of being this way. There are several declarations from him in the press that shows exactly how the kind of pressure that the workers are suffering every day from the management of the airline. The workers in Qatar Airways have to be very confident that we will continue fighting to ensure that they are going to have a proper legislation in Qatar that will make possible for them to fight for their rights. They need to trust We know that they are suffering. Many of them cannot stand that anymore and leave the airline. Many of the ones who have already left the airlines are the ones who have made contact with us, telling us what they've suffered before leaving the country and employment. But we need to ask them to trust, to wait, to continue working, to continue making Qatar Airways a very efficient airline, but also to start discussing among themselves which is the best way in which they could organize, because the day is going to come. We are very confident that someday the state is going to let them have their own organization and is going to let them fight for their rights.